It's no secret that one of the most important features that someone looks for in a smartphone these days is a good camera. Whether it's capturing memories, creating content, or just snapping a quick photo, billions of people are reaching for their phones in their pockets every second. And I am no different. Believe me, as a photographer and videographer, anytime a new device comes out, I'm always digging through the camera specs. Now, if you're new here, I've been a lifelong iPhone user. In fact, this Nothing Phone 3A is the first Android phone I've ever owned, thanks to my friend Parker Burton. I shared my first impressions of the phone in a previous video if you'd like to go watch that. But today, all we're doing is taking a dive into what this mid-range phone can do regarding its camera system. Now, in that first impressions video, my initial experience with the Phone 3A was surprisingly really positive, even comparing it to my iPhone 15 Pro, which is a flagship level device. But today isn't about comparisons, it's about putting the Nothing Phone 3A through its paces to see what it can do on its own. From testing lens switching and color accuracy to checking out the selfie cam, I'm excited to see what kind of performance Nothing has packed into such an affordable device. But that's enough talk. Let's first off dive into the camera specs. The Nothing Phone 3A features a triple camera setup, and for a phone in the price range, that alone is pretty impressive. The main wide-angle lens is 50 megapixels with optical image stabilization, or OIS, which physically stabilizes the image by moving the lens or sensor. That means cleaner shots and smoother video, especially in lower light. The ultra-wide lens is 8 megapixels with electronic image stabilization, no OIS, just EIS, which that is just using software to reduce the shake. Not quite as effective as OIS, but still a nice addition. Lastly, the telephoto lens is another 50 megapixels with EIS and up to a 30x digital zoom. For those keeping track, the only lens with OIS is the main 24mm. And on the front side for the selfie cam, you get 32 megapixels at a 22mm range. Navigating the camera app is pretty simple and straightforward. In the top right corner, you'll find quick toggles for the flash, timer, HDR, exposure, filters, and autotone. Autotone, as far as I can tell, uses AI to enhance colors and add a bit of extra vibrance to your shots. Also to note, if you're wanting to use the 50 megapixel mode, this is where you'll toggle it on. It's not automatically just on, it's always in a 12 megapixel default. But once you toggle it on, you're going to get your 1x and 2x, or your 24mm equivalent and your 50mm equivalent. Those are the two lenses that you can use in the 50 megapixel mode. Moving on down to the bottom, this is where you're going to find your shooting modes. You've got your night mode, your portrait mode, your standard photo mode, your video, and then if you click more, you're going to have access to slow motion, time lapse, panoramic, and then expert mode as well, which is basically just allowing you to manually adjust everything from ISO, shutter speed, white balance. You can even go in there and use manual focus. It's essentially just giving you like a manual mode on a professional camera. Quick note on the portrait mode, you have a retouching option on the left. If you toggle that on a handful of times, you'll go from natural to strong to off, or back to off rather. From my tests, you can actually do this on the selfie cam too. It's a little too much, even on the natural. Strong's way too much. I personally would just leave this off because any retouching, any digital retouching usually just doesn't look the most natural thing in the world. So I would just leave it off unless you're going for that softer skin tone. And of course, whatever mode you're in above that, you're gonna have your zoom in options. In your standard mode, you are going to see 0.06, your 1x, your 2x, and your 4x. Your ultra wide is that 15mm equivalent. Your 1x is your 24mm. Your 2x is your 50mm equivalent. And then that 4x is that 100mm equivalent. You also have Google Lens integrated into the camera app, which is pretty cool. It allows you to point your phone at something, take a photo. It's going to show you the exact product that you took a photo of, or show you things that are very similar. Coming from iPhone, I've never really used Google Lens. I think you can just use it on Google itself. Never did. This is the first time I've played around with it. I gotta say, it's actually pretty fun and pretty useful. And then at the bottom, or if you just swipe up in the camera app, this is gonna take you to the preset mode. This is where you can create custom preset modes for your camera and essentially just save what kind of focal range you wanna shoot at, what kind of aspect ratio, what kind of filter. You can adjust all that in the settings. You can save it to a preset. For example, I made one specifically for Instagram where it's like a 1x1, uses the 50mm. I want to play around with this more than I actually have, but I actually see a lot of versatility and usability out of this function. But that wraps up the rundown of the actual camera app. Like I said, pretty standard, pretty user-friendly, and is actually packed with some cool features here and there. But the biggest thing is the performance. How well does this thing actually perform? Because you can read specs, you can have the same sensors, the same megapixels, whatever on it, all kinds of different devices. Every single device is always going to look different when it comes to photos and video. So let's jump into my tests and see how this thing actually performs. Okay, so as you can see from these photos that I've been showing, the detail's pretty good, right? Like it actually looks pretty good. I think my favorite lenses were the 1x and the 2x, that 24 and the 50 mil. Those are some of my favorite focal ranges with my professional cameras. So naturally they were some of my favorite ones on the phone itself. But I also just noticed that the quality looked the best using those two. The ultra wide cam did a pretty good job for what it was. Obviously wasn't quite as sharp in some instances as the other lenses. And then the 4x, that 100 mil equivalent, did a pretty good job as well. I don't think it looked quite as good as the 2x, but still did a pretty good job for that zoom range. Once you start doing any kind of digital zoom all the way out to that 30x, that's when this thing kind of just falls apart. I don't think many phones look that good at, digital zooming anyways. But specifically, I don't really think there's anything that you could capture with that lens that you could use, unless you're just trying to get something, or you like see an animal somewhere and you just want to prove that you saw it. Sure, that's probably one of the only use cases for this. But as far as getting anything actually like usable, it's probably not going to work out. But again, the details on this thing, especially when you get into those macro settings, it did a great job. Both the 1x, the 2x, even the ultra wide in some cases did a pretty good job at picking up detail. But like I said, that 1x and that 2x, that 24 and that 50, that was where you were getting the best photos from this camera system. Now let's talk about some of the issues that I was running into. Specifically, the color shift on this thing. The color shift on this camera system is pretty egregious. I'm not gonna lie. It's quite a bit different, especially from the main lens and the telephoto. Switching between those generally caused the roughest or the most jarring shift in color that I noticed. Also, you can also see it from the ultra wide to the main. Shifting overall just from all three lenses, as you can see in this test, it's going to show the difference in quality between lenses, and it's also going to show the difference in color. Some cases, it was completely different. Like just you go from warm to really cool, or you go from cool to warm. So that is one of the biggest things that I noticed in this thing, is that the color consistency between the lenses, not the best. It kind of has a mind of its own. And that's kind of, I think, to do with auto tone. If you have auto tone on, I noticed it a lot more, but it still does it even without it on. I used it both. I actually think I just shot a lot of my photos with auto tone on because I forgot it was on, but I also shot some with it off, and I noticed that color shift even in those instances. Autotone does do a really good job in creating a lot more vibrance in the photos, like I talked about, especially with the sunset shots. But it's one of those things where if you were wanting to take your photos and just do your own editing, I'd probably just leave it off anyways. But if you just want a really good looking photo straight out of camera that you can just post wherever immediately, autotone is not a bad setting to have on. I just noticed that it did cause a little bit more extra inconsistency when it comes to the different lenses and utilizing the different focal ranges. Video-wise, nothing super special on this phone. It's gonna cap out at 4K at 30 frames a second, which is good for most situations. Looks pretty good as well. Then you've also got 1080 modes at 30 frames and 60 frames a second if you want a little bit smoother video. And then you've got a slow motion mode at 1080 at 120, so nothing breakout revolutionary there, but in terms of video performance, it does a pretty good job. Like I said, it's pretty standard across the board in terms of its specs. Looks pretty good, looks pretty decent. It's usable for online posting and other things. Nothing super weird in terms of functionality when using video on this camera, so it's gonna do pretty much what you need it to do. The selfie cam as well, nothing super special. It's gonna get you what you need. It's gonna get those selfie shots. It's not gonna look the best in the world, but it does the trick. Same thing with the photos. I don't think I touched on the selfie cam photos just because I don't take a lot of selfies, if I'm being completely honest, but it looks like a selfie, does the trick. Like I said, nothing too special. In terms of low light performance, this thing does a pretty decent job, not the best. You do have to hold your hands pretty steady, otherwise you're gonna get a fairly blurry image. One thing I also noticed with this thing is that if you point this at lights, it is going to, and I made sure my lens was clean, it's going to get some massive lens flares no matter what light you're pointing it at. So just keep that in mind when you're pointing this thing at lights at night. You can get some really wild lens flares. Aside from that, I was able to get some fairly sharp and decent looking photos at night. Like I said, just make sure you're holding it steady. It did a pretty good job with the colors here. The video at night didn't look the best either. I was in some pretty dark places though, so there wasn't a whole lot of light to go around. So yeah, overall, very serviceable in low light. Just be sure you're holding your hand steady and you can actually get some decently usable photos out of this thing. But at the end of the day, you can take specs, you can put them on paper, you can read them, you can talk about them all you want. But for me, it's always gonna be what does the device feel like in my hand, but also how does the photo actually look once you take it? Using the device, how does that feel? What's the photo look like? Because every single device is gonna be different. Like I said, you can have identical specs in, across all sorts of different devices, but just because they're coming from different manufacturers and different different companies, they're always going to look different based off of how they're making these sensors, how they construct their lenses, what kind of elements they're using. So it's always going to be about performance and how it actually looks for me. You know, the specs are just kind of there to talk about, but in terms of the actual performance of this thing and how the actual photos look, I was genuinely very pleasantly surprised with this overall. Given the price range at $379, it's a pretty affordable device. And mind you, this isn't just a camera, it's a whole phone that's capable of doing a lot of other things. We're just talking about the camera system in this video. But that camera system, for being the cheaper version in the lineup, because you have the Pro, which has the better camera system, or you know, has that periscope lens, they did a really good job with this camera set as well in the 3A. The photos are usable, the photos look good, they have great detail. You are actually getting really good little details out of photos as well. Like I said, with auto tone, you got a lot of inconsistency with the colors, and that can be a big problem if you're coming from the world of photography. Colors are a really important thing to most people. I don't think the color accuracy issue would be, like, to your general consumer, it's not going to be a huge issue. To me, color is pretty important, and just because it was such a stark contrast between lenses sometimes, and the color shift was insane, that did hold me back from just kind of raving about this even more, because that color shift was so rough in some cases. So that being said, overall, my grade for the Phone 3a's camera system out of a scale from 1 to 10 is a solid 7. Usability is great on this phone. They make it really easy, and they've got a lot of fun features packed in there that are also pretty user-friendly. If you're not even like a photo junkie and you're not familiar with like photography terms or other things, they make it easy to navigate the settings and get to what you're trying to go to. The focal ranges are great. It gives you a lot of flexibility from that wide angle to up to that 30x. Like I said, not very usable, but that 4x, that 100mm is quite usable. So that's still a great range to use. The actual quality of the photos look great. The detail, like I said, you can get some really good small details that look great from this camera. Video looks great too, nothing spectacular by any means, but still very much usable. And the integrated preset mode I think is really fun. I'm still playing around with it and just creating presets, and I actually love that. I think it's pretty cool. The biggest thing that's gonna hold this camera system back, in my opinion, like I said, is that color shift. It's just way too inconsistent in terms of the kind of colors you're getting. Like I said, you might be able to help that by making sure that auto tone is turned off most of the time, but like I said, even with it off, it was still making things go from warm to cool or cool to warm, just depending on the situation that you were in. And to some of you, it honestly might not be a huge issue, but for me, it's really hard for me not to notice it. I would like to see the same color consistency throughout all my lenses on my phone. But for a phone that starts at $379, the level of detail and flexibility make it a fantastic option for budget-conscious creators. Nothing has done an excellent job maximizing what this phone can do for its price point. So if you're looking for a smartphone with a surprisingly capable camera system on a budget, the Nothing Phone 3A is absolutely worth checking out. Thanks for watching, guys. That's enough consuming content. Get out there, create something yourself. I'll see you all in the next video.